Welcome back to Nadine's Coastal Kitchen. 2 words, Lobster Carbonara. Need I say more? I think not. Let's get started. First, you need to get a big pot of water boiling on the stove for your pasta. So for this lobster carbonara, we're starting obviously with lobster. We have leftover lobster. We're lucky enough in our community to live in a lobster fishing village. So I have the meat from one lobster that I had in the freezer for a couple of weeks, and I saved the shells to make the stock for this sauce. And the sauce for the pasta is comprised of pancetta, and we have a shallot and a clove of garlic and tarragon, butter, egg yolks to make things all that much richer, a little bit of brandy, a little cream. And I know Italians would not put cream in their carbonara, but this is sort of a Canadian-Italian, South Shore, Nova Scotia dish. Freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano, freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, Parmesan cheese. And really nice dry spaghetti. We're only going to use half the package because this recipe serves 2 generously. And some other cooking staples like olive oil, salt, and pepper. I have a big pot of boiling water on the stove, and so that's ready for cooking the pasta when the time comes. And I have a pan that I'm going to make my sauce in. In goes the pancetta. And we're going to fry this until crispy. I'd say 1 more minute should do it. This is what you're looking for. It smells so good. Now I'm going to fish this out and put it in another dish. It's not the right tool, it's too big, as usual. It's okay if a few pieces stay in the pan, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm just going to put this to one side while we make the rest of the sauce. I'm going to cut up the shallot. We need 1 whole shallot. Okay, so there's 1 shallot, and then I'm going to crush and chop a clove of garlic. And I think just nice little, very thin slices is good here. Okay, So there's your clove of garlic and your shallot, all chopped and ready for the sauce. Okay, so now back in our pan with our olive oil and pancetta fat, we're going to add even more fat, 2 tablespoons of butter. And melt that. And then we're going to add in the chopped shallot. And give that a good stir. And then these are some lobster shells from a couple of weeks ago. We had a lobster boil, and I saved the shells and the meat from one lobster because I knew I was going to make this. So the frozen lobster shells now get used in this beautiful sauce. So into the butter and shallots. We're going to fry off those shells. So this has all been cooked. We're just getting flavor out of it. And I know this might seem crazy to some of you, but this is a wonderful way to get a lot of flavor out of the shells and into a pasta dish that features seafood. So I'm just going to stir that around for about 5 minutes. We add the garlic sort of at the end of the saute process because garlic burns easily and it doesn't taste very good when it's overly cooked. So this is just to give it a little heat and extract its flavor. Stir that around in the nice butter and fat. And I wish YouTube had a smell feature because the aromas coming out of this pan are to die for. Now, one very important ingredient in this is a 1/4 cup of brandy. If you don't have this on hand, that's okay. You can use white wine or you can just use chicken stock. But this adds a beautiful depth of flavor. And if you're not used to cooking with alcohol, just be very careful when you pour it in. It may flare up on you. So we're going to stir that around. And this will cook off a lot of the alcohol in case you're concerned about that, leaving only flavor in the pan. So we're building layer upon layer of flavor. We have the flavor of the pork fat, we have the flavor of the lobster shells, the shallot, the garlic, and the brandy. And now we're going to add 2 cups of cold water. And we're going to let that come to the boil. And once it comes to a boil, I'm going to put the cover on and just let that simmer some of the flavor out of the lobster shells. So then you can move on and clean up your kitchen a little bit and set your table, because this is going to be ready as soon as you cook the pasta and toss it in the sauce. you want to eat it immediately. So have your table set, your wine open. Everyone should be ready to go when this is finished. Okay, let's put the cover on and let that cook. Another component of this sauce are egg yolks. So we're going to beat 2 egg yolks with a fork. And I'm going to grind in quite a bit of pepper. This is going to add yet more flavor. And then we have a cup, actually a lot more than a cup, maybe this is a cup and a half of Parmigiano Reggiano that we've freshly grated. But I'm not going to use all this. I'm just going to add it to taste. You can put in as much or as little as you want, but I find it adds a little bit of flavor. Again, Italians would say, "Oh my goodness, don't put cheese with seafood," but I find that it does have a really nice flavor. So we're going to make a little paste with that. And then after we cook the pasta, we'll use a little bit of the cooking water to loosen it up, and then we'll add that to the finished sauce. So we'll just set that aside for now. So now our stock, our seafood stock, has been simmering away for 10 to 12 minutes, and you'll see the stock itself has infused with all of the flavors of the shells, the shallots, the garlic, the brandy. So now we're going to turn off the heat and we're going to strain this through. Okay, we're going to pour this through a colander, and it's very hot, so take care not to burn yourself, because when the shells drop in, it could splash back on you. Okay. And all that stuff in the pan, that's okay. That's all flavor. Okay, that's good. If any more drips out, we'll get them from this secondary bowl. And I just give that a little check and make sure that there's no pieces of sharp shell or anything, but they will settle to the bottom, and we won't pour all of this back into the pan. We'll just be careful with it. Okay, back into the pan with our stock, and now you can get a better idea of the color. It's very nice and rich. And just be careful as you pour that there could be some sharp little bits of shells, so we're just gonna not pour all of it in. Just leave the dregs, as I call them, in the bowl, and that's well enough stock to flavor that. And you can turn the heat on again. And this looks fairly nicely reduced, but I think it could use just a little bit more, because we're going to add those egg yolks and cheese and a little bit of pasta water when we go to finish this. But right now I will take some tarragon, just a sprig like that. Let's just put that right in there. And that will flavor the sauce a little bit more. Just let that infuse. And I think at this point, it's a good time to taste this and see if it needs any pepper or salt. Needs a little bit of pepper. I'm just going to let that cook down a little bit on a very low heat. Our pot is boiling rapidly, and we're going to add a good amount of salt to this because I have a lot of water in this pot, and we want to season the pasta. So I've got 2 great big tablespoons. I have a 500 gram package of spaghetti. We're not going to use all of that, obviously. I think half of it is good depending on your appetite, but you know what? This is a rich dish, so I think maybe a third of it for 2 of us tonight. Okay, into the pot. And cook these according to the package directions, minus about a minute, because we're going to finish the pasta in the sauce. So the package says 9 minutes for al dente, and so I'm going to time it for 8 minutes. And give your pasta a stir because it may stick to the bottom of the pot. Now I'm going to add to the sauce 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Do not tell your cardiologist about this recipe. Okay, little stir. Just keep that over a low heat. And as I said before, now is a good time, if you haven't already, get your table set, pick out the bowls you want to use, and be ready to eat as soon as this is finished, because while it's taken a fair bit of time to get this all prepped, once it comes together, you have to eat it right away. That's when it's at its best. Okay, at this point you can pull your lobster out of the fridge and just give it a rough chop. Now this claw, you're going to find it has a bit of cartilage in there, so we don't want that ending up in someone's dinner, so we're going to pull that out. And just cut that off. Yeah, so discard that. And this is kind of a nice piece for garnish, so I'm going to set that aside till the very end. So you want nice bite-sized chunks. There's no cartilage in that one. My pasta is just about ready, so I got to whip through this. This is a tail. I'm just cutting that into nice bite-sized pieces. And those are quite nice too, so I think I might reserve a few of those for topping the finished dish. I'll grab that. That's cute too for garnish. You'll see when we plate it what I'm going to do with those. That looks like a piece of shell. So yeah, also just a reminder, if you encounter any sharp pieces of shell, just fish it out, throw it away. We're going to drain this. I have one of these pasta pots that's a strainer inside the pot. So, and with your tongs, you're going to fish out this tarragon. that was stewing in the sauce. Just throw that away. Give this a little stir. And now we're going to take our pasta, drain that out of there as best you can. Put that right in the sauce. Okay, so we'll just let that take a little steam bath in there for a moment. So remember these egg yolks and Parmesan cheese that we whisked together? We're going to take a little bit of this pasta water, a ladle, half a ladle full, which is about half a cup, and just dribble that in there. And stir very quickly. You do not want scrambled eggs. And that will temper the egg yolks. And then we can put that in our pasta. And now we're going to toss, toss, toss until we have a lovely creamy sauce. And you can turn up the heat a little bit. Don't turn it up to high because you'll end up scrambling those egg yolks. We just want a nice creamy, creamy mixture. And at this point it looks like you have a very runny sauce, but this will all become thick and gorgeous in just a moment. Just keep it moving. Keep it moving. I've got the flame on the very lowest setting. Okay. That's starting to look really good. So now at this point, I'm going to put in the crispy pancetta that we fried earlier, that we've had sitting to one side. And we'll toss that in. Mmm, smells so good. We have a little bit of fresh tarragon, so you can snip that in too. And if you don't have tarragon or you're not a fan of the flavor, I happen to love the flavor, but if you're not a fan, you can use Italian flat leaf parsley. That's also very good. Don't put the tough stem in. I'm just snipping off the delicate leaves. Another toss, toss. Okay, you're probably wondering, what about the lobster? When's that going in? That is going in now. Mmm. Look at it, look at it. Yum, yum. And do not miss a bit, even that little bit right there. Yum. And this lobster is already cooked. It was already boiled. And so we're just heating it through. And see how thick and rich that sauce has become? So I think I will add just a touch more of our pasta cooking water, just to loosen it up ever so slightly. Mm. Yum! Freshly ground pepper. That's a lot, but I love it. A little more Parmigiano Reggiano. Why not? And we are ready to plate this. I'll show you a little trick. Take your ladle, take your pasta, put it in the ladle. twist it around in the ladle. And then just carefully twirl it into your plate. You can do a little bit more because this is for two, but wow, this is going to be a generous for two. Another little twist. Sorry, my ladle is in the way. And fish out all these good bits. The lobster, I think I'll use another utensil instead of these tongs. So there's lobster, there's pancetta, another beautiful hunk of lobster, more pancetta. And the little guys that we saved. I'm going to put him right on top. And once that gets stirred in, it will heat up from the heat of the pasta and the sauce. And see what I mean about the sauce all being absorbed into the pasta? It seemed like it was never going to reduce, and then all of a sudden now you have this very thick, saucy mixture. How does that look? Beautiful? And you can put more cheese on if you like. I think it's probably fairly well seasoned at this point, but there's nothing wrong with more cheese, is there? Let's see how it tastes. Okay, full disclosure, we were in such a hurry to dig into this that we forgot to hit record on the camera. So it was delicious. I can assure you this tastes absolutely divine, and I hope you'll give this recipe a try. As always, thanks for stopping by Nadine's Coastal Kitchen. Please give my video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more content like this. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.